Good morning, and welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill Unitarian Universalist. Our minister is the Reverend Tom Belote, and this morning is our annual Campus Fellowship service, where we, the UU Campus Fellowship members, lead the service. I am Jenny Nelson, and I am the chair of the Unitarian Universalist Campus Fellowship at UNC, which is the only UU Campus Fellowship in North Carolina. The fellowship has been sponsored by the community church since the late 1990s. We meet weekly on Thursdays at 6:30 in the Student Union. The church supports the group by providing food and funds for activities, exam care packages, and Marion's leadership. The support of the church is so important to us, and we thank you for it. We love doing this service, and we're looking forward to talking with you after the service. I especially want to welcome any visitors or newcomers to our church and to call your attention to this special note for you. Welcome, guests and newcomers, on the backside of your order of service. I would also like to welcome those of you attending online. Lyrics and hymns may be found on the live stream screen, and a complete order of service is available on the link in the Sunday email and on the church website. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. As a congregation, we are requiring masks to be worn at the 9:30 service, while masks are optional at the 11:15 service. Our religious education program requires masks in all of their program spaces. Masks are optional during the in-person Sunday social, held immediately following the service. The online Sunday social is hosted by Rachel Rose and will be held at 1 o'clock. The Zoom link is in the weekly announcements and the Sunday morning email. And please turn off or silence any cell phones during our service to maintain a worshipful experience. This morning, we have two within these walls announcements, one for the annual pledge drive and one for the day of service.
Good morning. I'm Dawn Carter, and I want to talk with you for a few minutes about gift giving. A few years ago, one Sunday morning, I made arrangements for someone to take care of my then 3-year-old so that I could visit the church I had heard about for a very long time from a former member. That was my first visit here, and I've never looked back. That was also my 50th birthday, and I've long felt that that was the best gift I could have given myself that day. You've heard others talk this month about some of the programs we have here, Glenn's multifaceted musical talents, Rachel's always cheery hello and smile for everyone, Tom's thought-provoking and often amusing sermons. I need to still work on the challenge of rest from last week. All of those programs are deserving of our financial gifts, but I want to focus for a few minutes on the RE program. As someone who did not grow up as a UU, I knew on that fateful birthday of mine that I would need help raising my son with the values and principles I had evolved to at that point, but didn't always have the words for, especially words that a child could understand and relate to. The spirit of this community immediately gripped me and assured me that this was the place for us and a place that I could trust for help with my child's religious education. A silver lining of the pandemic, however, is that I got to see that education up front Sunday after Sunday. If you don't know this already, we have two amazing leaders for our children and youth in Kat and Marion. They pour out thoughtfulness, care, and concern over the children of this community week after week after week. And in contrast to my religious upbringing, they do it in a way that's not just rote teaching about something you must know or believe, but they use stories, activities, real listening, and conversation that brings it alive to 5, 8, 11, and 16-year-olds. This takes resources. To make sure that we have child-appropriate activities for our day of service that we're going to have on Saturday, making sure they understand importance of giving back to the community. Chalice Camp, Summer Art Project, Pie Sunday, which we all get to enjoy, the Buddies program that we celebrated yesterday, and the brilliant idea of paying our youth staff to help, and at the same time allowing them to learn to be leaders in a safe environment. All of these are so deserving of our gifts. So as we come to the end of this year's pledge drive, if you haven't already, I encourage you to gift generously to this community. Gift financially, We'll also put in a plug-in for gifting your time and talents. You'll get more in return, I promise. We have an incredibly active and vibrant community. Let's give and gift to ensure that we are educating the next generation of UUs ready to sustain what we all appreciate and enjoy today.
Hey, have you heard that the 2023 March Madness Day of Service is next weekend, Saturday, March 4th, and many of the teams are already filled.
Sorry. Yeah, this is going to be a high energy one this year. I hear there are a few spots left for those that like serving with their teammates, and Habitat for Humanity, Charles House, Carol Woods, and other community partners.
The sign-on is really easy this year. All you have to do is go to the community church website, go to the quick links, and sign up by March 1st. That's this Wednesday, last day to sign up. So don't miss volunteering for the project that makes your heart bounce.
Once you do that, the March Madness referees will contact you about signing up for the kickoff breakfast and the Lunch Madness potluck. You can also stop off by the table during the Sunday socials between services to learn about the rules of the day. So sign up and help us make a slam dunk.
Please stand in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. You will find the words in the teal hymnal.
When our heart is in a holy place. Good morning. I'm Marion Hirsch, and I am the Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at the Community Church. And one of my great joys is to be one of the leaders of our campus fellowship today. Who's speaking today? Our opening words come from Kathleen McTeague. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces, to see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter, silence, memory, and hope is hallowed by our presence together.
The words for our chalice lighting are in your order of service. If you wish to do so, please join me in saying them. May the flame here lit be to us a symbol of the torch that is passed from hand to hand and life to life, of caring and concern and the passion for involvement which have marked the people of our liberal faith for many generations. Each week, we hold a time in our worship service for the sharing of significant joys and sorrows. If you have a personal joy or sorrow to share, you are invited to come forward, place a stone in the water, speak your name into the microphone, and briefly share your joy or sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust.
Good morning, I'm Deborah Day, and I placed a stone for my friend and coworker, Jeannie Preisler, who lost her nephew last week to the opiate epidemic.
Good morning. My name is Tom Belote, and I've been asked to place 2 stones this morning. The first stone is for Leslie Zeldin. Leslie's partner, Thomas Fletcher, suffered seizures last night, and he's in the hospital at UNC. And Leslie asks for our thoughts and our prayers for his recovery. The second stone I've been asked to place is for Susan Lindholm. And Susan is having the first of 2 hip replacements tomorrow. And she requests our prayers for a successful surgery and for a quick recovery. Thank you for holding Leslie and Susan in your hearts this morning.
Hello. Sorry, a little nervous. My name is Heather. I am Steve Warshaw's daughter. I have been a visitor to this congregation. Sorry, sometimes I just cry. Doesn't really mean I should be crying, I just do. But I've been a visitor to this congregation many times over the years. I lived in Colorado. I lived in Texas, and then I moved here 6 months ago to be closer to my dad. And I'm actually sharing a joy in spite of the tears. I just have a lot of emotions. It's a joy to be able to come here and experience this community that has meant so much to my dad and to my stepmother, Cecilia, for so many years. I myself am non-religious. I have not attended church for most of my life, and I'm okay with that. But I really enjoy experiencing your community. It's unique and it's special. And as a side note, my dad is having a medical procedure tomorrow, so keep him in your thoughts. I hope that it goes well and achieves what we are hoping will achieve and will improve his quality of life a lot. And I just want to thank you for being a wonderful place to visit.
I place this last stone for any joys and sorrows this morning that were unspoken but are no less real. Let us take a moment to hold these joys and sorrows in our hearts.
To be is to be perceived, and so to know thyself is only possible through the eyes of the other. The nature of our immortal lives is in the consequences of our words and deeds that go on apportioning themselves throughout all time. Our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb, we are bound to others, past and present, and by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam from Campus Fellowship, and our reading today is Beyond Borders by Rick Hoyt. Go forth, because we are always going forth from somewhere, going from our homes, our childhoods, going from our cities and countries, going from innocence to experience to enlightenment, going into mystery and questions, going into the desert, getting to the other side. Go forth. Leave behind the comfort and community of one place, head into the anxiety and loneliness of another. Carry with you the love and laughter of this place, and let it light your way. Carry with you the wisdom you learned and the good memories. May they give you strength for your journey. And when you have been away long enough, far enough, done what you'd set off to do, been there so long that place too starts to feel like home, come back. Come back to the one universal, everywhere and everyone and everyone inclusive home, this beloved community of all creation that you can never really leave.
Freely have we received gifts that minister to the needs of our body and spirit. Gladly, we bring to our church in its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate online, there's a QR code on the back of the order of service, and there's information on the church's website. We will now receive the offering.
Howdy. Some of y'all might recognize me. I live down in New Orleans now, but I used to live here. I wrote this song a couple years ago about how strange it is each time I come back and how everything changes. I didn't even recognize Alan and Jenny. I feel about 1,000 years old saying this, but they were both about yay high last time I saw them. So, as was I, right, exactly. Time waits for no one, so. Changed. I can't even recognize you now. Not that it would matter anyway. Please don't try and ask me why or how. I've spent too much time on yesterday. And I mean it when I say I am letting go. And I mean it when I say I am letting go. Resides within your chest. You have driven it down to your toes. Many people think that's for the best. I suppose I'm one of those who knows. Once it's gone completely, will you rest? Or will you simply be a shell that grows? You don't have to change in my best. I'll find other places I can go. And I mean it when I say I am letting go. And I mean it when I say I am letting go. And I mean it when I say letting go. And I mean it when I say I am letting go.
If you are lucky, you are blessed with many families in your life. The families you were born into, the families you create, the families you are given, and the families you make. Each family teaches you something about who you are. My families have taught me how to care and provide. My families have taught me values and responsibilities, to be kind and respectful, to help those less fortunate. My families have taught me how to react, what's acceptable and what's not. One of the most important families in my life has been my church family. Being a UU is integral to who I am. It defines what I believe about life and people. It defines how I think the world should be. It defines how I behave and what I want to do with my life. Growing up in this church has shaped me into a more kind, patient, and loving person. Nearly 10 years ago, I stood in front of this congregation and shared my coming-of-age credo. about what I believe. It included the sentence, "I am certain that the 7 principles and the lessons I have learned from being raised in this church will stay with me for the rest of my life." And they have. I'm a little bit older with new life experiences, more education, and on the precipice of big changes in my life, but my beliefs haven't changed. It was surprising to go back and read what I wrote for my credo and realize that my beliefs were and are still so strong, except that I might be a little more proudly UU. I think that comes from getting older and maybe being a Chalice camp director. Wearing a UU t-shirt every day, everywhere you go for a week pretty much brands you. But I also like to think that my beliefs have stayed strong because this church gave me a safe space to try out the different beliefs and different versions of myself. Here is where I worked out to put all the parts together into the person I fully want to be someday. What do I believe? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? This church community has shown me that it is always okay to just be yourself and to believe in what you know to be true. Each experience in this community and each person I met through the campus fellowship has been an opportunity to learn and grow. There have been ups and downs, like a pandemic that completely changed all my plans for campus fellowship, year after year after year. But every challenge has given me a chance to create something new, maybe something better, knowing that I would be supported in whatever new ideas I tried. The church has always been a second home for me, a place where I know I never need to be afraid to try. So many of you have taken the time to give me meaningful life advice or just take a moment to check in with me. You have all celebrated and congratulated the best moments of my life and have supported me through the toughest ones. That is what growing up in this church and being a UU is all about for me. A church community, a church family. As I look to graduation, I know that the church has helped me realize that being an educator was my calling. I was mentored through being an RE teacher, a Chalice camp director, and chair of the UNC Campus Fellowship. I believe that working as a teacher provides opportunities to share the values of our church and faith. And while I am still figuring out how to actually create these strong and supportive families, like my UU one, what has become clear to me is that I want to create school communities that let students become who they are in the same safe space and welcoming spaces that this church provided for me. I will try to honor each person's worth by being inclusive and welcoming. I will try to make sure that everyone's voice is heard and provide opportunities to put thoughts into actions. I know that the UU principles will be good values to guide me in my life and in my work. So thank you to this church and to the Campus Fellowship for all you have given me as I expand my world beyond these beloved spaces. Growing up in this UU church family has been a blessing and one that I am eternally grateful for. Thank you.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Alan Reece, and I am a Human and Organizational Leadership Development major. I know that's a very long title, so we just shorten it to HOLD. It's much easier that way. Throughout this major, I've taken many leadership classes, especially about different types of leadership, and as well as many organizational theory classes. Now that I'm nearing my graduation, it's interesting to look back on my life and how much being a lifelong UU has meant. I've grown so much throughout my time at this church, and I would like to take you back through that journey. For those of you who knew me when I was younger, I started out at this church clinging on to my mother, who's back there in the soundboard. I would not leave her for anything. I was just stuck to her like that. But since then, I have been a part of multiple ministry teams. I've been a part of Sunday morning childcare youth staff for many years, and I have become greatly more independent. I promise I'm not clinging on to her anymore. I don't remember much about my early years at the church, but I can speak to my growth starting when I worked on the youth staff. So I started working as a child care provider as soon as I could, which was at about age 14. I was still a young, headstrong kid running around in all athletic clothes all the time, no matter what or where I went. I realized I loved working with kids while working at the church and decided to start working at the Chapel Carborough YMCA. I have since been working with kids for nearly 9 years. While working here and the YMCA, I started to become a great deal more professional because I realized I was working in places that I needed to present myself maybe just a bit better than a polyester madman. So I started dressing much nicer to the point that I was wearing dress clothes around the house and just out and about. So this used to be just like the regular Tuesday afternoon dress. It's dumbed down a little bit, I promise. So this greatly helped me calm down my anger. I was a little bit of a headstrong kid. I cooled it down a little bit, and learned to be a lot more even-keeled. Another huge part of my growth here was my leadership development through the committees I was a part of. Now, if you know UUs, you know they love themselves a good committee. And that's exactly what the 3 committees that I served on were. All 3, the youth, the children's, and the music team, were incredibly fun to be on, and I learned a ton about how meetings work and how to plan huge events. When I first joined these committees, I was still young, I was pretty quiet and reserved, but as time went on, both through these committees and through my time at Durham Technical Community College, I started to participate more and be able to bring more helpful thoughts and ideas to the table. A big, large event that some of you may have been to very recently that I have helped run and plan for many years is Fishbowl, which is a Unitarian Universalist classic. If you've never played it, it is a chaos-filled word-guessing game that has many more rules than that, and I don't have time to go through all of them because that could take our entire service. And a lot more logistics go on behind the scene. But I have been the MC for our production of it for 4 to 5 years at least, I think. There's a lot of organizing and small details to keep track of, so it can be a strenuous task at times, but it's one of my favorite events to put on at church, if it's not a little crazy and chaotic. Another incredibly large event that I directed was Chalice Camp. Jenny mentioned this earlier, but Chalice Camp is a week-long summer camp for elementary schoolers. That was also incredibly stressful to run because you just have to keep track of budgeting. There's a lot of planning to go into it. There's tons of emails. It's the most fun thing to do. But I really enjoyed it, and I learned a ton. It has been one of my most formative experiences here. And all of these experiences have led me to be successful at UNC. That is not to say that UNC has been all sunshine and rainbows. There have been plenty of difficult times, hard assignments, moments that I easily could have been ill prepared for. However, given what I've learned here at the church about leadership, group work, patience, and resiliency, I have been able to complete these assignments or lead my group to create an excellent presentation or paper. One of the biggest things I've learned from my time at the church is the importance of pre-preparation. Whenever I'm in a group project, the first thing I do with the group is decide who's going to do what part and what we need to and when we need to have it done by. Having worked on the youth staff for many years and having an internship planned from this semester as my final capstone class, I had asked Marion and Kat if they would allow me to be an intern here and work on the youth staff and getting them in tip-top shape. They accepted, and I have been interning here since January, and you guys are stuck with me until April, so suck it up. The project is going incredibly well, and I'm already putting my well-earned knowledge to good use. This church and this community have taught me so many wonderful things. I've learned to plan better. I've learned to be calmer. I've learned to be more kind. I've learned to be more open and relaxed. I've gotten to see so many behind-the-scenes things and how things function and need to be run. I am grateful for my experiences here because they have shaped a huge, huge part of who I am. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. My name's Trey. I'm a PhD student in Spanish linguistics here at UNC. I'm also the treasurer of the Campus Fellowship. I've been involved in Unitarian Universalism since 2015 when I started going to the UU Fellowship in Boone, North Carolina. My journey to Unitarian Universalism is a long and convoluted one. unlike my friends who just spoke, I was definitely not raised in the church. I was raised in Charleston, South Carolina, in a fundamentalist Christian group where some families didn't allow their girls to wear pants or cut their hair. The worst crime of all, though, was the ankle-length denim dresses that they forced them to wear, for sure. All joking aside, it was definitely a rough space to realize that you were queer in, which I did around age 10. And after a surprisingly short amount of time questioning that reality, I decided that it was the people and the worldview that I was surrounded by, not me, that was insane. Even at age 10, I felt a strong sense of duty to the truth. And the undeniable truth was that I was attracted to other boys. As you can imagine, that didn't go over well. I existed in a social sphere where I heard of other queer kids being thrown out onto the street for their sexualities, where sympathy and prayers were given to the family for being tested by God. But what kind of God would applaud a family for committing one of the greatest crimes against nature imaginable, disowning and deeply traumatizing their child? I slowly realized that fundamentalist Christianity cast this life and everyone in it as inherently broken, fallen, and that at our cores we are wicked and sinful and in need of a redemption that can only be given if we live our lives a certain way. I wondered what kind of world these sorts of ideas would bring into existence. It wasn't until that I was an adult that I realized that creating a world with those sorts of ideas was the point. Because fundamentalist Christianity, at its core, is a political movement dressed in the clothes of a religious one. I attended revivals and conferences as a preteen that talked about the fight for the soul for our nation, joining the army of Christ. They called Obama, who was running for president at the time, the Antichrist, and also somehow a Muslim. So as a teen, I shut myself off from my parents and my church, certain that whatever the ultimate truth of the universe was, fundamentalist Christianity, it was not. I then discovered the writing of writers like Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson, early American rationalists who questioned the Christian dogma of their time. It was Paine who said that my own mind is my own church, which obviously resonated with my experience of coming to know the truth of my sexuality. But as I matured into adulthood, purely rationalist, atheist thinking began to clash with my sense of wonder for the inconceivable vastness of the universe, for the richness and mystery of our own internal worlds, for our neurobiological need for connection. I began to see the divine in everything: stars, planets, ants, dandelions, the laughter of my loved ones, the strangers I walked past on the sidewalk. I began to see how our culture and the economic system and our economic system separate us from one another, feed us inadequacy, and then sell us the cure. I began to see how we are not purely rational creatures, and to deny our spirituality and interconnectedness is to sever half of ourselves. For me, connection and love are the biggest truths there are. But I came to see that some people live with the illusion of a self distinct from other people, from animals, from the earth, from the web of the universe that holds us, and that any ideology that upholds these illusions can only end in alienation and trauma, the evidence for which we see all around us. All of these revelations led me to the UU Church, whose theology celebrates connection, the oneness of the universe, the inherent worth of every human being, regardless of sexuality, background, or beliefs. I believe in a God who, as Einstein said, reveals himself in the harmony of all that exists. So I work to help create a world that reflects this ultimate truth. Through my connections with students as a language educator, through advocating for working class people on campus as a labor organizer with the Workers' Union at UNC, it may be that all of my efforts may amount to nothing more than a single drop in a limitless ocean. But tell me, what is an ocean if not a multitude of drops? Thank you.
Please stand in body or in spirit for the remainder of our service. Our closing hymn today is number 1064, Blue Boat Home. You will find the words in the teal hymnal. Our closing words today come from Margaret William Braxton, Someday. Once upon a time I was, now I am. Someday I will become. Once there was, and now there is. Soon there will be. And someday there surely shall be. Once upon a time we were, now we are, and someday we shall surely become. Amen. You will find the words for extinguishing the chalice in your order of service. If you wish to do so, please join me in reading them. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let's thank all of those who contributed to making this service worshipful this morning. Because our service is ending a few moments early, please wait on picking up your children from RE until 10:30 and enjoy coffee until then. The words for our closing song are in your order of service. If you are comfortable, please either hold hands with the person next to you or cross your arms over your heart. Now, please join us in singing Shalom. So